Up next, we have a fireside chat and discussion about tokenizing private equity with Liti Capital and Michael. So we'll bring them both on up to the stage.
Hey guys. Hey David, welcome.
Hey Michael, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's excellent to have you. I was really interested in how, having tokenizing private equity plays onto the blockchain. Just to kind of start the chat. Could you tell, everyone a little bit about yourself, a little bit about what you're doing as well with Liti Capital?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, you can see I took the fireside really seriously. So my background is actually not in crypto. For the better part of the last decade, I've been in private equity. I was one of the founders and ultimately built and managed $1 billion plus private equity firm in New York that was focused on litigation financing, which we can, talk a little bit more about as we go further into the chat. But after leaving there and looking around for what's next, there were a couple of things that were driving me. And the DeFi community was one of the things that really, it piqued my interest, right? So what you have to understand is when I was running the fund, it was set up where my mom couldn't invest, okay? She didn't have $1 million of liquidity, which is what's required, right? In order to invest in funds outside of this community. My siblings couldn't invest. Here I was running this private equity fund. We were generating 30 to 50% cash on cash returns. And the people I really care about, everybody, the everyday people couldn't invest. The 1% could invest. And I've been lucky enough in my career where when I'm looking at what to do next, I can look at something that actually matters, right? That makes a difference, where we can turn around and we can say, you know what, this is for everybody. And it is absolutely high time and the right time to bring private equity and the returns that it has to everybody. And so that's really kind of the primary focus of what brought me to Liti Capital and what we're trying to do with the community.
Excellent. And then when did you start Liti Capital again? Or when did Liti Capital start?
We're new. We're really about 6 months old. And our largest investor signed on and we did a $10 million raise, of which, I can tell you what we've done with some of that money. We've actually started to build out the portfolio because one of the things that's really not unique, but differentiated about this is that we're actually buying assets, right? We're raising the money, we're buying assets. Those assets have an independent value, right? And while I'm sure we'll go up and down with the market just like everybody else, right? Ultimately, there are real things that we have that you can see, that you can touch, that will produce cash, and that ultimately will generate, money, whether in increased share prices or dividends, right? And we are going to be issuing dividends. If we make a profit, we are dividending that profit out to our token holders. So, we're relatively new, but we're very excited, right? New and named. I've been doing this for the better part of the last decade, yeah. So it's more new and named than actually.
Excellent. And for some of the viewers that don't understand what private equity is and what is litigation finance, would you be able to describe some of the terms and what it is for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So private equity is basically private investment vehicles that function a lot like hedge funds. Okay. Everything that you read about hedge funds and private equity managers and people being obscene and what they're doing is not fair. I was in that world, right? And the problem is that it's only for the 1%, right? And private equity specifically is different from a hedge fund because in the world of private equity, you actually have to give your money for 5 to 7 years, and it's locked up. And at the during that entire period, you can't get your money back. It's only at the end of that period, if and when there are profits, that money comes out to investors. And this is another, I think, really unique thing about what we're providing to this community, okay? Which is that this is going to be one of the first private equity funds where there's actually liquidity day to day, okay? And that is a big, big deal because one of the reasons why private equity funds get really attractive returns is because the money is locked up. It's long-term money. And because they have long-term money, they can go out and say, look, you're not going to get money for 4 or 5 years. This is a long investment, and investing in litigations can be a long investment, and you have to wait until the money comes out. What we're doing here is we're going to get those returns, but we're going to give people liquidity. You can trade in and out in an hour, a day, a week for $5, $10, or $50 if you want to. So that's a little bit about private equity. Litigation finance, so it's one of the newest areas of private equity, one of the fastest growing, and without question, one of the most lucrative, okay? And what it is that it is financing people who have claims, oftentimes against large multinationals or even countries, and they can't afford to bring the claim themselves, okay? So if you had a contract where you started a business and you had a VC investor come in and it was worth $100 million, right? And they took it from you. They would never do that to you, Michael, but God forbid, right? They took it from you and you then had to fight them. And they were spending tens of millions of dollars on lawyers and you didn't have the money. What do? And the answer is you come to me and my team, and we provide the financing for you. We provide the expertise for you. And this is the most important part. We get you paid, right? Well, one of my favorite sayings is that a judgment is just the single most expensive piece of paper you've ever bought, right? It doesn't really mean much. The question is, can you enforce that judgment and can you get paid? And in my career, that's probably what I'm best known for.
And then, like, how does that interact with the blockchain, though? Like, how does that happen on like a blockchain layer?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we're layering in the blockchain in a couple of different ways, right? The first is that we're involving the community in the process of finding information and other people and resources that we may need for the case, right? So each case is about a different topic. Sometimes I have to become an expert in renewable energy in Japan, right? And we want to source the community and say, if there's anybody here, let us know if you have information about this. And if we use you, we're going to give you a bounty, right? If you bring a case to us, we're going to give you a bounty. But the part that I'm the most excited about, okay, is that we are going to take 5 to 10% of every dollar we raise. It's not profit, dollar raised. And we are going to invest it to go after people who were defrauded or scammed in the crypto community. Okay, this is really, really important. Okay, because what we're doing is, in my last fund, I had $1 billion. 10% of that is $100 million. Okay, what I want to do here is I want to take $100 million and go after every rug pull, every time that people en masse get defrauded. It's time to take a stand, right? And part of what I'm doing here, right, is I want to make a difference. Right? I love making money. I'm a big fan, but at this point in my career, I want to make a difference. Okay. And so how this is going to work is that if you have a Liddy token and you or somebody has been scammed, you come to the community, you let us know, and we're going to diligence those cases for free. Okay. Then we're going to pick the top cases that we think have the most merit. And we're going to, we're going to go after them. Right? And we are ultimately going to find out who they are, and we're going to let the community know. And then we're going to go try and get the money. And to the extent that we get the money, we're going to return 90% of it to the community. Right? We're not taking a profit. We're just doing costs and overhead to get that done. And we're going to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And so that is, without question, the thing I am most excited about with this project. Our community needs people with real capital to stand up and say enough, to start to make it so that some of these scammers have some risk on the other side, even if it's just being known. It's necessary for the next step of this, and we are going to be the driving force in that.
Yeah, and like we've seen with DeFi, like there's a lot of bad actors, and it just really makes the space just, everyone's scared to kind of enter because of these bad actors, and going after them is being, finding a way to go after them is really something that's noble. Being able to get people back their money and being able to find a way to, have them say, hey, look, there's a big dog watching over you, don't do it. Also,
absolutely.
And then also like about your structure as well. I noticed that you have like 2 different types of tokens. Like, could you kind of like briefly describe which one's which?
Yeah, absolutely. So under Swiss law, so one interesting thing is we're a Swiss company. And under Swiss law, under Swiss law, you can have what's called an equity token. Okay. And if you go on our website, you can see that we're one of, I think, 3 or 4 companies that's actually gotten a letter from the Swiss regulatory authority confirming, right, that we are not a security, and that we are an effective tokenized equity. All right. So we're really excited about that. Really, really small group of people that have that designation. Okay. That's the share. That is a tokenized piece of equity, but it's not tradable. Okay. Each of those shares can be broken into what are called WLIDs. And WLIDs are basically just a reference for the token. And those are going to trade on Uniswap and other exchanges. And that is ultimately where the liquidity is going to come from.
Oh, so that's kind of like the fractionalizing of the equity into like smaller subsets.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that, you know, in order to trade, right, you can trade as much as you want. There's no KYC. There's no requirements, right? My mom, my dad, my sister, right? You can trade that all day long. To the extent that you want to have voting rights or actually hold the shares, then you have to go to our website, right? You fill out a form. There's a KYC process. If there are any other regulations for wherever you are locally, you know, we'll take you through those and you get your equity. And by the way, you can go back and forth, right? You can have equity, split it into WLIDI, take your WLIDI, put it into equity. It's really, it's going to be seamless back and forth.
And like, I kind of wanted to take just a quick take back with about like the, you know, the plans on how to take on these crypto scammers. Because like, how would you be able to do that? Because some of them are anonymous, or some of them are, you know, like for example, like Mt. Gox, we don't know who took the money and stuff like that.
Yeah. So look, enforcing is an animal in and of itself, right? And, you know, I'll tell you, the last year that I was at the private equity fund, okay, we enforced $1 billion of cash and securities against the government of Venezuela. Okay. That is, you know, it's not easy, right? And in some ways, these scammers are harder than governments, but in some ways, it's easier, right? And I think that there are a couple of different ways that we can go about it, right? The first is we got to start with the people who are the least sophisticated, right? That's very important. That's what we call low-hanging fruit, right? There are people who use Twitter. They sign up and use phones that we can trace who it is, right? And figure out where they are and who they are. And this triangulating of people and places to actually go back and find out who someone is important, right? And I want to be clear that, like, it's not just sitting in an office. We have people on the ground, right? If we find a burner phone that somebody's using, right, as long as that phone is still active, we can triangulate where somebody is into a relatively small area. And if we've narrowed it down, right, to 5, 10, 15 people that it could be, we can confirm it, right? We can always follow the blockchain to see where the money is moved. So there's a lot of different tricks. The answer is that it's really going to depend on the specific circumstance and how sophisticated the people are that are doing it. But, you know, it's kind of a funny thing. So people always say criminals make mistakes, right? The truth is we actually all make mistakes all the time, right? And if somebody does perfectly, are we going to be able to find them with today's technology? I don't know, right? It's going to be hard. But are there going to be a bunch of people out there that made mistakes that were operating before Liti Capital came in and gave them real downside, right? There's going to be a lot of those people, and we're going to find them, right? If you are a WLIDI holder, we're going to protect you, right? This is our community. This is our group. We're going to do everything we can.
Yeah, like with the crypto space, you know, like all these rug pull projects, like we just want to clear them out, man. Like honestly, like having them to where they are, you know, able to steal millions and millions of dollars, you know, it really affects a lot of different communities, like, especially like some people that are just getting barely into the space, and it's like, well, I just bought this token because of you know, someone just told me about it and I didn't do that much research, and then they just rug pull, you know, like at least having an option to kind of mitigate those effects. Because like if you think about it, some of these people are like just getting into crypto for the first time and just, you know, getting into decentralized finance, and then having a rug pull from them is not fun.
Honestly, it breaks my heart, right? And I would tell you that I think for each of those people, we're going to lose them for years, right?
Mhm.
With a lot of them, they're just going to be gone from the community, right? And we need this. I mean, no, I was telling someone the other day, right? I wire money, okay, and one of our investors was wiring money to us, and it took 4 days,
Mhm.
right, to go from one country to, it was ludicrous, right? And people who send us stable coins or Ethereum, it's there in 2 or 3 hours, right? And forget the actual sending of money. How about data? Protecting data, right? For the cases and enforcements that we're doing, data protection is a really big deal. Like, I will tell you, it's in our roadmap, but we are committing millions of dollars to a case and data management system that's using the blockchain, right?
Mhm.
Where there are security keys, where we can control who sees what and where. I mean, the uses are endless. And I know I probably sound like a neophyte because this area is new for me, but it blew my mind when I realized the utility of this and the fact that it's for everybody and everybody can use it simply. And it just, if somebody doesn't stand up and do this, it's gonna take years and years and years for every person that we lose. And the problem that we have now is the whole world lives and dies on incentives, right? There's no
Mhm.
incentive for anyone today, right? Governments, there's no incentive. It's not regulated, right? They're worried about taxes. The individuals, that's not their job, right? That's not what they're getting paid to do. And so really, for me, right, the reason that I agreed to do this with the team is because this is what we're going to do, right? We don't have an incentive other than to protect the community that we're working with, right? And it's a part. The more money we have to go after these people, and we're just going to keep going and going and going and make as big of a difference as we can every single time.
Excellent. Yeah, like just it's a really noble thing to kind of do for, because like a lot of these scammers out here, man. And you know, like to kind of we're about to hit that that final mark, and I just wanted to kind of like ask you for like a, you know, like for everyone that's listening and watching it now, like what do you want to like really have them take across, you know, like the final point that you want to kind of like reach across to them about?
Yeah, look, for me, it's that it's time. Okay, it is now time for people in the crypto sphere to be able to invest their money like the 1%, with investment managers that represent the 1%. Your money should be able to be put in a relatively safe environment where you're going to be able to generate returns that are backed by assets, and you're going to get cash, the same returns, the same opportunities as have been withheld from people who have less than $1 million a year, right? That message. And if you're a part of our community, you know, we believe in community. We're going to involve you in our decisions. We're going to try and work together to make this better. And we're going to help protect you from scammers as much as we can.
Excellent. I got I got one guy in the audience saying, "Are you guys hiring? I want to be in."
You can always reach out to us. I'm I'm always open, and we are definitely growing. We're definitely growing.
Excellent. And thank you, David, for coming on today and letting them all know about it. And you know, like my final takeaway from this too is like, be careful, Anons. If you guys are trying to scam people, you guys better get wrecked by Liti Capital.
That's right. You tell them, Mike.
All right.
All
Yeah.
right.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thanks, man. Yep. Have a good one.